welcome to the very first episode or video of Better Gaming, a brand new podcast and event series that I'm creating, which is dedicated to all aspects of ethical gambling and gaming. And that will go across platforms and operators and regulators and tech for good companies, right through to lived experience players, both good and bad, and influencers and industry bodies. And in this video, all I'm going to do is sort of like give you an overview of me, say a quick introduction, my background and why I've created Better Gaming. And then I'll have a quick chat about what people can expect in the days and weeks and months ahead as I build towards the podcast episodes or the event that I've got planned for March 2026, which seems a long way away, but will not be. And then finally, just sort of like a real call out to people, if there are people listening or watching, I appreciate this is the first episode. But anybody who's interested in the project and wants to help or support it and contribute to it, and that could either be getting involved or being interviewed or making suggestions, and yeah, just a real shout out for helper, I guess, as I build on this project. So, okay, let's jump into it. So, my name's Jim. I'm an events organiser by background, 20 plus years, covering exhibitions and conferences and awards and sporting events. And I guess my story kind of started about 5 years ago around the pandemic and COVID. I had my own business at the time, and yeah, just really struggled like all event organisers. Cut a long story short, I lost my business. I tried to resurrect different formats a couple of times, didn't have much joy, and then I think like a lot of people, it was a time to be reflective, to discover, reprioritise, what you thought was important in life. And I decided that I wanted to explore different careers and different options. And around about this time, I saw a job advertisement on LinkedIn for a local charity, which blended in quite nicely with where my thought process was at the time, which is, I'm less commercial, I'm more interested in community-based projects. And so I applied to be a campaign manager for a local hospice in their fundraising department. And at the age of 47, it was just sort of like a bit of an experiment. Fast forward 12 months, I'm now the lottery manager for that hospice, and the lottery that I run has between sort of like 12 and 13,000 members. It has 20,000 to 21,000 lines being played a week, and that's £1 a week. So if you can do the quick maths, it sort of like generates around about £1 million contributions to the hospice, which allows them to spend it on palliative and end-of-life care to people in the community within the catchment area. So it's a great little project. As with anything, when I'm learning stuff, I do deep dives into it, and I get intrigued by things like regulations. So the Gambling Commission piqued my interest. Things like regulatory matters. So when I encountered my first self-exclusion request, and then I start digging around into various elements of the positive and the negative side of gambling. And with that, it kind of balanced itself out in so much that I appreciate that whilst my side of gambling is probably the lower entry, lower stake, lower risk, there is on the flip side higher stakes, higher risks and higher impact, and that can be quite negative on society. And with that put me into a moral journey of inquisitiveness and discovery and research. So for example, a couple of weeks ago I visited the event which was the Peers for Gamble Reform, which looked into things like a ban on gambling advertising, which I found super interesting. But also in the crowd there was a lot of people, family members of people who have been victims of gambling harm, and there was a lot of really sad stories and broken lives and broken family units, and something that I found very emotive and thought-provoking in terms of whether gambling can be ethically good on society on the mass scale. And with that, this is where I got to with the whole concept. I mentioned that I went to one event, the Peers one, that had Lord Foster there, but then earlier in the year I had attended ICE Gaming, which takes place at XL. And whilst the Peers one was very reflective and it came from a different sort of position, ICE was a very commercially driven entity. It's a trade show. I think it's just recently moved to Barcelona, and I attended it on a Tuesday morning. And it was quite a stark contrast to the environment that I'm used to, which is a hospice, which is very peaceful, very serene, and people are very respectful about what's happening at the hospice. And that is my working environment for 3 days of the week. So to turn up on a Tuesday morning at XL and almost be sort of confronted with a Vegas-style blinking lights and fruit machines and business discussions was quite a stark contrast. I actually went to ICE to look at the ethical side, about tech for good, for good causes, charities, and there were a couple of subjects and topics on there, but essentially, they were put in the corner. And this is kind of the reason why I'm setting up Better Gaming, both as a podcast and as an event, is to hold that central ability for a net positive impact on society by gambling and gaming, and to put it as a central core theme, and to bring together like-minded people who, as I said at the beginning, who are looking to make gambling fairer, who are looking to keep people safe, and to see how they can maximise the positive impact that gambling and gaming can have on society. And so that's something I'm doing. So I'm going to do it in two ways. I'm going to do it, one, through a podcast, and as I said, this is the first episode, but on the podcast what I hope to do is interview people who share or work towards that common goal that I've already explained. So I'm going to do interviews. I'm also going to do some sort of commentary. If there's some news releases, if there's some headlines, or if there's some discussion topics, I might just jump on here quickly and give my 5 cents worth for what it's worth, and to give some commentary and some insight, and to basically add to the whole topic of whether it's healthy gaming or safer gaming or responsible gaming, whichever terminology you want to do. It's around that core theme, but also looking at good causes and that positive impact. So that's going to be on the podcast side of things. On the event side of things, I've got an event in mind. It's looking to take place on the 18th to the 19th of March in 2026. So that's not next year, it's the following year. It feels like a long way off, a lot of planning, but the way I kind of want to do this is to invite people onto this podcast, involve them in the show, and build towards that face-to-face contact and that personal thing that I've got a track record of delivering. So that's something I'm super interested in. I've got a venue lined up. It's looking to take place in Birmingham, as I said, over 2 days. And again, it's looking to bring and unite both operators and platforms and suppliers and regulators and technology companies, along with charities and lived experience causes and industry bodies. So that's essentially Better Gaming, and what we're hoping to build in the next few months. And hopefully these updates will become more regular. And as I said, it's only going to be possible if I get people to help me. So this is a sort of like a direct pledge to anybody who may be listening to this or maybe watching it. If you're interested in this sphere of the gambling industry and the ethics behind it, please do let me know. I'll be super interested in talking to you. Invariably, you'll know more about it than me, and you'll be able to point me in different directions and introduce me to different people. But yeah, any help, and it might be you. It might be you that you might want to come on here and have a quick discussion with me. But any help would be great. So what I'll do is it'll either be on the screen or in the comments below. I have my email address, which is jim@bettergamingshow.com, or you can just visit the bettergamingshow.com website, and there's various places there that you can either contact, whether it's for the podcast or for the event, or if you just got a general inquiry, just go to the contacts page. So this is my first episode. It's a Hello World episode, and if you've made it this far, I really appreciate your time in listening to me describing the genesis moment of Better Gaming. I really hope it gets some traction, and again, any help will be gratefully received. So thanks very much for this part. That is the end of episode 1, and fingers crossed I see you for episode 2.